It was a physical burnout. Yeah. It eventually took a darker turn. It was a mind fuck and a body fuck. Like I couldn't do physical things that someone who's, 25 years old, like you feel you should be doing. I don't even know, like the doctors can't even tell me, so all they could tell me was like, oh, there's just like chronic inflammation in your joint here and in your tissues. And I'm like, I cut out refined sugars, seed oils. So it wasn't just the food that eventually helped me get better. It had a bigger impact than I thought it would have.
What's happening, folks? I am here in San Francisco outside Kitava, where I'm about to interview the owner and co-founder, Bryan. Today, you're going to learn about Bryan's story and how it led up to opening up Kitava and everything that Kitava has to offer the community right here in San Francisco and the Bay Area. Before we get into this podcast, can you do me a massive favor and subscribe to this YouTube channel? Our goal here at Ignite Fit Life is to build the Bay Area's fittest community. And you're going to help me do that by subscribing to this channel. Enjoy the episode. Bryan, thank you so much for having us here today. I really do appreciate your time. It means a lot. I'm really inspired by your story and, how it all led to you opening up Kitava. And of course, the mission behind Kitava and what you guys do for the community is like super inspirational. So thank you so much.
Yeah, great to be here. Great to have you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Awesome. So I want to dial it back to when you first came here. You said that you did a lot of like rigorous training. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I moved to San Francisco and I was in my young 20s trying to meet people, trying to just explore the city.
Sure.
I had played sports growing up, so being active physically was a big part of my life always. And I joined a run club, started running half marathons, started doing crazy like 200-mile relay races just for fun. And, also on top of that, diving into my career, trying to, build myself as a professional and lifting weights. So just doing a lot.
Yeah.
And during that time, I probably did too much. I was stressed physically, mentally. I was commuting an hour and a half each way to work, 5 days a week. So that was stressful in its own way. And yeah, just kind of learning how to be a young adult in a city like San Francisco, there was a lot going on, a lot of change happening in my life. And so all that kind of led to an injury that I suffered during that time that started as just like a soft tissue injury in my lower body and ballooned from there into a more mysterious thing that wouldn't heal. And I went to a bunch of doctors over the course of a year and a half period. The condition only got worse. So I was kind of stuck. I didn't really know where to turn. So that's the early part of my journey here.
Yeah.
And we can talk more about it, but it led me to adopt an anti-inflammatory diet as part of the regimen that I was using to heal myself and figure out what was going on. And that planted the very early seed to what eventually became Kitava.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, all that training, the life stress is just coming here, just trying to like do what you need to do. It kind of led out to pretty much a burnout in some form of way.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very physical, it was a physical burnout. Yeah. It eventually took a darker turn into being really depressed.
Okay.
And that was largely because I was prescribed bed rest, where in order to allow my tissues to heal, the doctor that I was seeing had a very intense method and basically said, you can't do anything that will remotely cause these tissues to be irritated. And so for a period of about 7.5 months, I was on crutches. And half that time I was confined to my apartment in North Beach.
Wow.
And as someone who's used to being physically active, that could take a toll, and it did take a toll. And I was dealing with depression for the first time in my life. My body was in pain every second of every day. And I didn't know what to do. So burnout in more ways than one, I think would be accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it just completely destroyed your whole quality of life.
Yeah. It was can we curse?
Of course you can. Yeah, bro. Do whatever you gotta do.
It was a mind fuck and a body fuck. Like I couldn't do physical things that someone who's, 25 years old, like you feel you should be doing. And that perpetuates this cycle of feeling sorry for myself, I'm like, man, I can't live the life that all my friends are living. I can't do all these cool things. I can't be active, let alone go walk down the street without feeling pain. So it was all those things all at once. And it really stripped me down to the core of figuring out, okay, well, if I'm not an athlete right now, I'm not this active person. I can't go out and hang out with friends. Like, who am I?
Yeah,
So it was a very existential time for me and pretty transformative in general.
of course, yeah. I mean, that's definitely like the aggressive side to that situation. But you kind of came into light there a little bit when you were speaking. It was just more like did you find something in those moments that kind of like that just sparked a different side of you that maybe motivated you towards who you are today? Like, talk to me more about like that situation.
Yeah, it really opened my eyes to how to think about who I was. I was very attached to identity and ego, and really having to shed that stuff. Yeah, I was forced to shed it. I had no other choice. And kind of build up from scratch, really. I shouldn't say from scratch. I mean, I had a really good foundation, and I had a good upbringing, and have done some great things in my life before then, but definitely had to check myself a little bit in terms of how I thought about approaching life, approaching, the way that I operate, and how I talk to myself internally.
Of course, yeah.
That was a huge part of it.
Yeah, that resonates a lot as well. It's at some, I left Ireland, for instance, and I came over here and I was on my own. And I left Ireland for a certain reason. I was going down a road that I just wasn't happy with. And I just wanted to, I suppose, in some form of way, escape that bubble that I was in, and then to come over here and then come to San Francisco was more to like find myself. But I pretty much packed up all my stuff, the emotional baggage, and brought it over here and just unpacked it all here. So at some point I kind of had to come to a point where I was just like, look, you had to take a step back from everything and really focus and dial in what it is that you need to do to improve yourself, and not just, keep doing the same old things to make you feel worse off. But your situation was that you were kind of like in physical pain here, and you're like, no, you're not. They would move for a few months. Was that it?
Yeah, several months.
Several months. That's very difficult. That would kill me, because you're going from really active lifestyle, good quality of life, to just like bedridden.
Yeah, and one of the eye-opening things was how much the mind and the body is connected.
Yeah.
And the emotions are
Absolutely.
all a part of that as well. And so that was something I had never really thought of or been exposed to before. And that this time period really forced me to say, okay, I need to look at, I'm not healing in the traditional ways. Like, all the prescriptions that I were given to try to get better actually made it worse. And so that's why I was trying these different things. Severe rest was probably a very extreme approach, but also with that was, how do I reduce stress? How do I reduce inflammation in the body? How do I get over this depressive state? Because that was holding back my physical state from recovering. And so learning all these things for the first time were very foreign to me. I grew up on the East Coast in the New York City area of the United States. Like, this is all hippie stuff. Like, it might be normal to people who grew up in San Francisco, but
I totally understand.
very, very new to me. But yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. And so yeah, this was the first time in my life I was forced to kind of examine it. And one aspect was examining food, examining what I was putting into my body.
Of course, yeah. So like throughout this process, did it even occur to you at some point that it was like your diet? Because I mean, look, you were saying to me as well that you went to different doctors and they couldn't necessarily find out what the issue was, and then you couldn't find out what the issue was. And then you're just like, it led you to more figuring out like your dietary preferences and lifestyle. At what moment at that point in time did you decide to actually start doing that? And did that start making a difference from that point on?
Out of desperation. I was like, look, I don't even know, like the doctors can't
the
even
last
tell me.
resort.
No, well, they can't tell me what's going on. So all they could tell me was like, oh, there's just like chronic inflammation in your joint here and in your tissues. And I'm like, all right, well, they're saying that's bad. How do you get rid of that? And
Sure.
so that's when I was like, okay, food can play a role. Or at the time I was trying to figure out anything. And they're like, at the time there was esoteric blogs and books and, magazine articles and niche podcasts, when podcasts weren't even popular yet, that were talking about different aspects of holistic health.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if there's even a small chance that any of this is true, I'm going to try it, because I've tried all this other stuff.
Yeah,
and it hasn't worked. So I'm like, okay, small price to pay. I'm just going to eat a certain way and change what I'm sourcing and change how I'm cooking and I said, I'll give it a go.
Awesome. That's incredible. Just going on to the dietary side of things, and I feel like it's almost like a full circle for you, a full circle moment, because you're sitting there, you're listening to all these kind of podcasts, and now I feel like you're sharing it now for yourself. This is for like my viewers as well to come in and have a look, and there's going to be somebody who could be in your position, and you're sharing your light on something that could help them also. So I really appreciate you sharing that story. That's amazing. So thank you so much. It means a lot. So yeah, elaborate now. You started diet, your journey began once you started, the inflammatory diet, and that kind of helped you from there. Let's expand on that a little bit more.
So specifically what I did was I started an approach called an elimination diet. So I took out a bunch of things that may or may not cause issues for me, but even if there was a chance that these could be an issue in my diet for my symptoms, I said, okay, I'm just going to cut it out, and I'm going to do that for at least a month. And after that month period, I started slowly adding some things back in just to see what the reaction was. So the things I cut out were, and I was at home, so I had the fortune or misfortune, depending on how you look at it, of cooking all my meals and sourcing everything myself. So I cut out refined sugars, seed oils. I started sourcing only like organic foods, organic veggies and meats. What else? No alcohol.
Good. Me and you both.
No sugary drinks, none of that.
Yeah.
What else? I stopped eating peanuts, soy, things that are like common allergens.
For sure.
So like peanuts and soy fall in that category. And then also gluten as well. Because again, I was just anything that could possibly be an issue.
Sure.
Let me just cut it out. So those were the main things. And then I also, which I don't think I have enough time to get into, but I also add in things that were rich in certain nutrients at a higher level. So just some small examples are like garlic and turmeric root and ginger root. And I started making my own bone broth.
Yeah.
So like organ meats.
Yes.
Things like that I was adding in, and I was subtracting other things. Okay. So throughout that process, what I realized was there were certain things that I actually felt the impact of more than others. And over time, again, it was a multifactorial recovery process. It wasn't just the food that eventually helped me get better, but it had a bigger impact than I thought it would have. And not just on like the physical symptoms in the moment, but in the way that I felt and kind of my mental state and emotional state. Actually coming to every meal, this is another change I made, was coming to every meal distraction free and mindfully eating that meal.
Yeah.
Like I would just used to shove every meal down my throat in 5 minutes.
That's it. Yeah, you're
and
not
so
alone.
I would sit and just take the time it took to chew, eat my food, be in a non-stress state while I was digesting it. And that was something I intentionally focused on as well. So that whole process and that journey over the course of the next 8 months or so was pretty transformative from a food perspective and a nutrition perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the food and nutrition perspective of it all. But, once you start seeing the results that you wanted with your injury and like your quality of life obviously got better, was there any moments outside of just like food? I mean, of course, you said that how you talk to yourself is a little bit different. The food that you consume is obviously different. What else did you put into play to that made a big difference in like your stress management and just overall just quality of life,
Yeah. So in addition to food and some mindfulness practices. So I would journal every night, and there was like kind of a mantra that I would journal and say to myself every night. There were certain books I was reading.
Of course.
I started meditating for the first time. This was back in 2012 or 13 or something. It wasn't as big as it is today.
Yeah.
And again, I was very skeptical. I was not someone who grew up with this stuff. Those were some really big things, like the mindfulness work, breath work, reading about breathing, and I actually read books about breath work, the mind-body connection, and health, as well as sleep. So like reading books about sleep. And so just focused on the basics of life, which sounds kind of crazy. It's like literally the basics of
kind of crazy, but not crazy at all.
in our modern world, not crazy.
Yeah.
Or in our modern world, it sounds crazy, but it's really just like the basics of being a human, honestly. It was those things. And writing a lot. So some of which was shared eventually and some of which just wasn't.
And I mean, like you said, you came here to San Francisco. You were on your own, correct?
I was living in an apartment in North Beach with roommates.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but I moved out here by myself.
Pretty much by yourself, right?
Yeah.
So you had to find that kind of community. So on your travels and stuff, you talk about all this. Did you go see somebody? Were you talking to people? Was there friends there to kind of help support you? Like along that line, what was there much of an impact there?
I mean, in that year, I couldn't really do much in terms of like leaving my apartment. I think the one exception was my grandmother died during that period, actually,
Wow,
and
you guys-
I did hop on a flight and go back to the East Coast, which was, again, I mean,
Not the best reason why.
insult to injury, literally. It's like I now had this like grieving thing to deal
Sure.
with.
Yeah.
But again, I was able to do that, thankfully, and be there for the funeral. But
Okay.
yeah, I relied on folks who stayed in my life and connected deeper with some, those family members and friends who did reach out and offer support was instrumental because it was really lonely. And
Of course. I could understand.
dealing with that was difficult. Now, I will say, kind of kick-starting the rest of the story a little bit, when I did start feeling better and moving more, which actually ended up being a part of the healing process, was starting to move again,
Of course, yeah.
as opposed to just staying in a potato state.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I wanna learn more about this nutrition stuff because, like I said, it had a bigger impact than I thought. So I actually enrolled in a school in Berkeley. It was a holistic health program focused on nutrition, and I kind of liked what they talked about in terms of their approach to like food from the bottom up, all the way from like the biochemistry of what it does in your body. They talked about sourcing. They talked about how to coach people through different conditions. And like I said, I was still kind of learning what I was dealing with, but I was like, okay, this seems like a cool program. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But that program, actually, I met a great community through that.
Awesome.
Of like-minded people, and almost everyone there had gone through some version of this journey for themselves. So we connected instantly, and we were all coming from different walks of life, different backgrounds, super
Yeah.
diverse community.
I love that.
And so that ended up being really instrumental, which we can talk about, to eventually, creating a food business.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, that's great. I just feel like as bad as it was, as bad as in that moment, it really kind of just transformed it to where we were at today, right? And then just finding those, going to that college, learning more about food, finding that community of people, and all of that wouldn't have happened if the situation didn't happen to you. Like, how do you see it? Like, did you see it like that? Like, you're right.
Yeah. So one thing that I came to this philosophy actually during that year was, I'm not a big fan of saying everything happens for a reason, because that's passive. That's assuming things happen to you.
Yeah.
But what I do think is you create the reason why things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I had it in my mind. I said, this is going to turn into something. And I used that as motivation to say, I just need to find what it is, and I need to create what this experiential moment is going to result in for me.
Sure.
And of course, if this didn't happen, it wouldn't have led to exactly what did occur. You can connect the dots looking backwards, but looking forwards, you don't know yet.
Yeah.
And I also think that everyone does have a moment in time in their life where they are faced with some kind of existential reason to look in towards themselves and discover who they are.
Mm-hmm.
I feel lucky it happened when I was 25.
Yeah.
I actually feel that way. And I did, at the time, I didn't feel that way.
Of course,
But
you're young, at that time you don't realize, you're going through a crisis mode. At 25, you're like, what the hell is going on? But when you look back at it now, you're 25, you're like, well, imagine it happened when I was 40 or something,
Well, later when I got better and I recovered and I was back to being physically active and doing other things in life, I was like, thank goodness that happened, because I really figured out who I was and what I wanted and what I cared about and what I no longer cared about.
Yeah.
And how to talk to myself and how to operate in the world. Versus if I was still in my old headspace, not that I was completely off the tracks, but I could have ended up in a place that could have left me at 40 and unhappy and needing to make a more drastic change.
I love that.
And never have done what I wanted to do in life, never have taken the chances, never have operated the way that would have led me to the most meaning and fulfillment, which I feel like what happened to me and going through that has led more towards that direction than if I hadn't at that time.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. I love that, man. Honestly, over the past year, even for myself, I just, I stopped drinking, stopped partying, stopped doing all the stuff that was just like negatively impacting me. It's just me and my, I recently just got engaged as well. So just,
Congrats, man.
thank man, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Just, meeting her, for instance, as well was a huge turning point for me, but I can understand, and when you say that it happens at such a young age, I've had 20 years of just being when I look back at it, it's like, I don't regret much, but at the same time, it's like, it was just 20 years of absolute nonsense, and now I'm just working towards something much greater in life. And I finally found out what that, purpose is, and I'm finding it at 35 years of age. And for me, it's just like, thank God,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
really
look, man,
happy.
like, don't put the pressure on yourself either. Like, I think people go on their own journeys. And while I said, I'm not a big believer in the phrase everything happens for a reason, I think your path is your path.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and you've reached that point for yourself. And it's not about preaching, and it's not about being on a pedestal of like, oh, now I'm wise and I have all this wisdom. Like,
Yeah.
I fuck up every day.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, of course. Yeah, I
like
love that. Yeah.
it's just like you have to kind of constantly strive towards being that ideal person of yourself, or that vision of who you think you are. But at least, being grounded in a true understanding of what you feel will bring you that fulfillment and that meaning. I think that awareness is the turning point that happened for me.
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. Just knocking off like the drink, for instance, as well, it's just given me so much more clarity. Again, what you're saying there, it's just more about don't be putting so much pressure on yourself, because that's something that I would do at such a young age, is to put an awful lot of pressure on myself just to like succeed. I'm not getting into why, but overall, it was something, and I feel like if I didn't get to a certain point, I would self-sabotage, and I would just go back to my old habits. So there was this moment there was always these things of me putting too much pressure on myself, and then it would lead to self-sabotage, and it was just continuous cycle. Now it's like, I feel like I'm at a position where I can 100% do the things that I need to do and not put pressure on myself. And eventually it will get me to where I need to go. Like, just go on the journey, enjoy the journey, and trust the journey. And then the image that I have in my head, you'll get there eventually, and then again, like you sharing that story, this is why it resonates with me. It's like, it's super important. I feel like people, would resonate that as well.
Something you just said was also a big thing I learned during that time was embrace the process.
Yeah.
And it's about trying to take one small step forward every single day. And truly, that's what you focus on instead of the outcome.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about, definitely that resonates with me, is like not getting too far ahead and not looking in the future, not also beating yourself up about what happened yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, what can I do today?
Yeah.
And I'm going to do my best. If I mess up or I don't, achieve the results, it's not about that. It's about the inputs. Like, let me put in the right inputs.
Exactly. Yeah. And then sometimes even when I don't know if it's the same with you, but sometimes if I just don't get stuff done in the day, I'm just like, I could have done more. I get to that point as well. But anyway, it's all good.
What's happening, folks? Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Just give me 60 seconds of your time and we'll get right back into it. Have you ever found it difficult to find the time throughout your busy schedule to work out or even be consistent with your workouts? Well, don't worry, folks. That's exactly why I designed the Inner Fire program. The Inner Fire program is a 60-day workout program. You've got 5 workouts a week, 2 strength, 2 HIIT, and 1 mobility session. These workouts are literally 30 minutes or less that you can do anywhere, in the gym, even at home, or even in your office if you wanted to. You'll become part of a community of like-minded individuals that will be there to support you along the way so that you can become the best version of yourself. You will have the guidance of a coach and the support of the community to help you get you from where you are now to where you want to be. If this is something that you want to get involved in, folks, go to the link in the description, click it, and join now. You've got your first 7 days for free.
So look, you started off with Kitava literally with broth. Is that what it is? Is that what you were saying? You were kind of soup or something?
Well, I started, so
your journey with food.
From that nutrition program.
Yeah.
I was inspired to say, hey, like, I can make exactly the way I want to eat at home every day. But that was cool when I was on bed rest. But coming out of that, it was hard for me to find exactly what I wanted to eat. And I was like, okay, I kind of want to like start a business around this. I want to make this more available. I didn't know anything about running a food business. So I picked the one thing that I had a hard time finding that I had every single day as part of my recovery process, and that was bone broth.
Yeah.
And
okay,
little did I know how difficult that was, as like, there's these laws now called the Cottage Food Act where you can start food businesses from your home. And at the time that existed a little bit. broth is not one of those things that falls under the Cottage Food Act. So like an idiot, I said, I'm going to pick the hardest thing. I'm going to pick the product that you need like big vats to make, and you need a commercial kitchen, and it needs to cool for several hours, and you need a big refrigerator. So, lessons learned there.
For sure.
But yeah, I started making bone broth, and I rented a commercial kitchen in Marin. And then I was doing a business that was selling broth and soup to cafes and farmers markets.
Okay, nice.
And that was just literally me saying, hey, I want to figure out how to run a company that makes money selling food that is of the type I believe in. And so that's what I did for a couple of years. That's how I got started.
Nice one, yeah. And then from that journey to basically open up your first Kitava, I love that name, by the way. Yeah. Where did you get Kitava from before we go into that?
Yeah, so quick divergence to talk about that. So Kitava comes from a study called the Kitava study.
Okay.
And there was a dermatologist who, I believe I'm forgetting the exact country. I think this could be wrong, but I believe it's one of the Nordic countries.
Okay.
Gosh, don't hate me if anyone finds this.
I'll chat GPT it.
Yeah, I'm gonna. It's a brain fart right now, but
that's all good.
Anyway, so somewhere in Europe,
yeah,
and he went and studied the folks who live on the island of Kitava, because he had heard that they don't have skin disorders. So he's a dermatologist. He says they don't have acne, they don't have other skin disorders that are more serious.
Sure.
So he wanted to find out why. So he went and did ethnographic research on this island and lived with them for several years. And he published a study called the Kitava study. Ended up actually concluding that not only do they not have skin disorders, but they don't suffer from chronic illnesses that we do in the West at nearly the rates we do. So I'm talking like heart disease, heart attacks, cancers, things like that. And his conclusion was that it was because of their diet, because they have a whole food, locally sourced based diet. And not only that, but he pinpointed the food because they're fairly sedentary. They smoke tobacco.
I actually learned about these. I actually did in college. I did. I'm not even. Yeah, no. I 100% no. I'm not lying to you. I did learn about this in college. Yeah, there's like different like centenaries or something like that. It's called, where people live to like 100.
Yeah. So
there, like Kitava or
some people talk about the blue zones, which
blue zones. There you go.
Has its it's kind of been debunked a little bit. Some people say, but anyway. So that's kind of the Kitava study, and our philosophy around food was always inspired by cultures around the world that have a simpler approach, that eat real food as the foundation, and are healthier, happier because of it. And so we wanted to communicate that in the name of the restaurant when we opened up Kitava, and so that's why we called it Kitava Kitchen.
Oh, nice one, yeah. I love that, yeah, amazing. Yeah, that's good. That's, perfect story to lead up to it, And just give us how did it all lead to your first opening? Was this your first opening? Or
this is our first. Yeah. And we're skipping a little bit of the origin story part, but to get to that, and I should say, we've actually, folks from the island of Kitava have reached out to us, and they love that we're inspiring.
Oh, they have?
Yeah, like they've actually said, oh, I remember when I was a kid and the doctor came and he, interacted with us and my parents, and love what you're doing in the United States, like spreading our country's name. Like, so it's been a really cool thing, and like talking to them about what they eat today and everything. So it's been cool.
That's awesome.
Back to the story. I'll kind of get to the origins and fast forward it a little bit, but
take your time, man, honestly.
Eventually, after selling soup and broth at farmers markets, I started expanding the menu, because my goal was to open a physical place. Like, I wanted to have a physical place in the community where people can come and eat the type of food that I feel folks were missing, that they wanted, and that I wanted in the community, and that could have it be a gathering place. Replicate what I was doing for myself, but in public, out in the world. And so I expanded the menu to include meats and veggies and things like that. And I started catering for offices in San Francisco. And so that was when I started really making money.
Yeah.
Like I made my initial investment back, just a small amount, but I started like making a profit month over month. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I can sustainably do this. Let me start putting together my pitch for a restaurant. And I shared that with a friend of mine named Jeff, who was running a meal delivery service that had the same, very similar food philosophy. And so a couple days later, he calls me and he goes, hey, Bryan, are you ready for, he either said one of two things, and I'm forgetting exactly what, but it was either, are you ready for a call that's going to change your life, or are you ready for an offer that you can't refuse? Okay. I think it was the change your life.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
But basically he was like, hey, look, like, my meal delivery service needs to add catering and a brick and mortar presence. The delivery ecosystem wasn't what it is today with like Uber Eats and DoorDash and all that stuff. So the economics were very, very tough. But he had a strong base of delivery clients. He knew that people wanted this type of food. And he's like, I like what you're talking about with the restaurant. What if we combine forces? What if we joined our teams and you've got the catering business, I've got the delivery. I found this spot in the Mission. It used to be a McDonald's. It has a big kitchen, a commercial kitchen. Like, let's create a restaurant there. And so that's how the idea of opening at this location at 16th and Mission in a former McDonald's came about.
Okay,
was
nice.
we actually joined our companies to create a new brand called Kitava Kitchen.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff, man. And how long ago was that?
That was in 2017. So
Okay, cool.
about 8 years.
Yeah,
8
wow.
years now we've been
That's
here.
been an unbelievable journey since then, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, learned a lot. Definitely been crazy. Went through COVID and all that. But
That's a whole different podcast story anyway.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
it's a
I'm
different
sure
podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So look, with Kitava as well, you mentioned that you guys give back in some form as well. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit more about how you guys give back to the community.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was one of the cool things about opening in the Mission and being at 16th and Mission is diverse community, underserved in many ways, close to several schools and several nonprofits. And so from day one, we made a point to go meet folks in the neighborhood and just ask, like, what do you want from a small business contributor in your community, aside from the service that we're offering? Because obviously we're a restaurant, we sell healthy food, but aside from that, like, what is it that the community needs? And so I kind of went on a little listening tour. And I do firmly believe that small businesses have a mandate to be a positive contributor and not just extract value from a community, but be a part of the fabric of every community. And so just a couple things we've done over the years, and it's always evolving, but from day one, we've had community bowls on the menu. We used to call them local specials that were $7 meals that anyone could come in and order just to try to provide a low-cost option for people who live and work in the area. There was a Burger King that used to be across the street. And I went and asked the folks who would stand outside eating Burger King, like, hey, what do you pay for your meal? Like, what do you typically pay? And they're like, oh, usually $7. Between the Whopper, the fries, and the drink, like $7. And I'm like, all right, like, we could put something on the menu that's $7. And so that's what we've done that from day one.
Right, okay, yeah.
And so we still have like a low-cost option for people who anyone could come in and order it.
I love that.
And we also, over the years, have given away many, like thousands of meals to folks, whether it's folks who are down in their luck on the street or nonprofit kitchens that we partner with. So that's something that we've always done. We partner with schools. So one example is the San Francisco Friends School is just down the street, and they have a garden that over the years had kind of been neglected. And so we were talking about what we can do together, and they said, hey, like, we're trying to get this garden started again. Like, are you interested in helping? And so I actually teamed up with someone else who was knowledgeable about gardens, and they kind of helped them get the garden started. And I went in and spoke to the first graders about food and nutrition, because the first graders were the ones who they were teaching this curriculum. And we were able to do a semester-long project where we would talk about what they were growing. I would do some talks about nutrition. They would come into the restaurant, taste a bunch of stuff, and then create their own salad.
That's hot.
And then we put it on the menu and sell it for like a weekend. Their parents would all come in with them, and they're like, oh, this is what we helped create.
Amazing.
And the initial intention was they would bring some food that they would grow, and we would incorporate that.
Okay.
I think the first year they did, but it was only like a bag of lettuce, or
Yeah.
they did their best.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, do what they could.
But it was cool because they got to see the impact of like, hey, like, food can come from the ground and I can eat it, and you can actually sell it to other people. And it was this cool cyclical thing rather than just viewing food as like a package that you buy off a grocery store shelf. So that's a really cool project.
It's amazing. I love that project. Yeah,
we've done that for 3 or 4 years. It's been really cool.
Yeah, awesome.
And there's countless other things. We've done like partnerships with a job training program of folks who are getting their high school equivalent, so their GED, and also working like manual labor jobs. And they would have sessions where they would learn life skills. And so we partnered with them for a couple of those sessions and taught them about how to eat healthy on a budget. We actually went in and cooked foods and taught practical meals and gave them handouts on things that they can do at home within the budget they have access to. So these are, again, just things that we don't really talk a lot about, but over the years we've done this kind of stuff because we think it is important to be a part of the community.
So this place it's more than just a restaurant here. It's really just adding value to people's lives, just in terms of just mindful, like in eating healthy. It's like you can eat healthy on a budget, which is like super important for people to understand that, and you'll be able to share that story, which more people need to know about that. I've been in the industry for 15 years. I work with clients one-on-one, and one of the biggest roadblocks that people have is that they think that, eating healthy is expensive, and it's my job as a coach to be able to make sure that they understand that, well, if you get this, this, and this, and this, it's like, it's not going to be that inexpensive, So next time I have my clients, I'll be like, just go to Kitava. You'll be fine.
Well, here's what I'll say too, is like, and we're always doing our best to try to keep our meals as affordable and approachable as possible. That means a lot. We're never going to be the cheapest option.
Yeah.
And what I will say is it's been really cool to see like Instagram posts or messages that we get of like, hey, I had this at Kitava and now I'm recreating a version of it at home. Because that's another way that we can inspire people is like, even if you can't afford to eat at Kitava every day, which we do try to make it so that it's approachable for as many people to eat as much Kitava as they want to for the convenience factor, or because they love bringing friends here, or if they just don't want to cook at home that day, they can get something here and enjoy.
Yeah.
But the reality is like not everyone wants to eat out or can eat out every day. And so if we can inspire them to have something healthy that's maybe a little bit different than they would have otherwise cooked for themselves or eaten out, and they could take that home to themselves or their families and try to recreate it, that can be done in a very sustainable way. They can shop in bulk for ingredients and kind of cook it themselves. So
Nice. Yeah.
that's another, I enjoy that. That's impact as well. Even if they're not purchasing that meal from us, it's still impact that we've had, which is really cool.
Yeah, just that actually a bit of education for the community, which is fantastic. Yeah, fair play. Nice. I mean, that's a lot of thought and work that goes into that. It's not just like, oh, we should do this. It's like you really got to sit down, brainstorm these kind of ideas to put it in. You're running 4 different restaurants now at the moment to be able to just provide that. Now, you do that here? Yeah. You're not doing that in the airport though, right? But is there other parts like in Oakland, for instance, and do you kind of just do the same kind of community outreach there too?
Yeah, so it's different in every location.
Of course it is,
yeah, at the airport, that's a different situation.
Of course, yeah.
And they have their own rules and regulations, and even pricing we don't control. So
Yeah, okay.
if anyone comes at me for pricing, we don't even control it.
Okay. Now you know.
So yeah, I mean, an example is in Oakland. We're just about to launch this. I don't know when this is going to air, but sometime in mid-October, we had hats that were created by a guy who came in, and he does DoorDash driving. So he comes in and picks up Kitava, and I actually met him through the restaurant. And then I saw him at the local gym in Oakland. We've kind of gotten to know each other, and he was at a local festival in Oakland, and I saw he was carrying around hats that he was selling. And these are custom hats that he made just about like different neighborhoods in Oakland.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, those are really cool. Like, would you collaborate with us on something like Kitava? And he's like, oh yeah, dude, I love it. Let's do it. So he designed this hat for the neighborhood that Kitava is located in Oakland. And it's called the Real Food, Real Community hat. So that's what it says on the hat. And we don't have it here.
Yeah, I was looking at a book there earlier on. I was like, oh, is that it?
No, I'm waiting with bated breath to get the product. I wish I had it here.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is we're going to give all the profits from these hats to a local nonprofit in Oakland called Planting Justice.
Okay.
And so we're trying to connect a full circle of supporting a local entrepreneur who's hustling, who's got a bunch of gigs, who's a Oakland local artist, entrepreneur. He's creating the hats. We're paying him for those hats. Okay. Then we're going to sell them to the public to have pride in Oakland, pride in the neighborhood, people who love Kitava, want to support.
Yeah.
And then donate those profits to a nonprofit that is doing great work in the community around food, around gardening, around equity and justice related to that.
Fantastic.
That's what this is about. I mean, and that's completely separate from selling meals. Like we're just doing that because it's cool and it's a good benefit to the community. So.
Of course.
I'm excited about that. I wish I had the hat, but that's an example of what we're doing in Oakland. We've done other similar programs to what we've done here in Oakland as well, just with different organizations, different schools. We haven't done the gardening thing, although I'm working on that.
Okay.
And then our newest location in Albany on Solano Ave, we're just, we just opened earlier this year. So we're kind of getting to know.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Getting to know the community there. One thing we've done is we partnered with a group that does community bike rides. Mm-hmm. So earlier this year, we had a bike ride with, I think 50 to 60 people ended up showing up on a Saturday or Sunday. And they started at Kitava, ended at Kitava, and then we gave them, some free smoothies and beverages and snacks when they came back to promote healthy activities with families. Again, just be a part of the community. So there's more we want to do over there. But yeah, every location we try to do something a few times a year.
Awesome. That's fantastic, man. Honestly, and that's inspiring. I'm kind of like lost for words, but even as I have this conversation with you since we began up until now at this point, you've been in business since 2017. I mean, 8 years, I can still see the passion, in the way you speak about it all. It's obviously it's in you, and you've been talking, and the passion inside of you to just, to make all this work and, provide for other people, and, get on top of all these like projects, and, serve the community the way that you're doing. You can still see how much it means to you, and I'm sure this is just going to be, just something that you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, or at least try to anyway. So your passion it's amazing, man. Fair play.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone who knows me would say that I'm lacking for passion.
You don't not show it, so I can understand.
Yeah, I think it's pointing it in that right direction, and connecting it back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Knowing that direction is important.
Yeah.
And so having something that I feel genuinely is doing good in the world matters.
Yeah.
And then I have to talk about this too, because I feel like in these kinds of conversations it doesn't come up, but the number of people we employ and the opportunity that we give them to do whatever they want in life has been meaningful too.
Yeah.
I know in this location specifically, I want to say close to 90% of the people have been working at this restaurant for more than 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is very rare in the restaurant industry. And we have a really good crew of people that I enjoy coming to work every day and seeing our staff and interacting with our team members. And sometimes people work in the service industry just because it's a stepping stone. Other people work in the industry because it's what they have the skills to do, but they want to learn more skills. And so I think it's really cool that we allow for, like, I have a business that allows for supporting those kinds of folks.
Yeah.
And try to make it so that it is a really good environment for
Of course,
folks to
yeah,
do whatever
yeah.
they want.
Yeah.
So that's something that is meaningful as well.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's like, it's a family. I've been working in my gym for the past 8 years. And you walk in and everybody just knows one another. It's almost like that program Cheers, for instance. It's, you walk in, everybody knows your name, but it's important to build that, because at least you're walking into different people all the time. It's hard to build, it's hard to build culture around that. But once you come in here, you've obviously, you have the same people. I can hear them now, and they're all just chatting away and having fun, and
it's shift change right now, so it's like that's when they get to
the bit of talking, catching up and all. yeah, which is great though. That's what we need. That's what you need inside of any kind of company that you're building. Just that, you need that for sure, 100%. So it's great that you've applied that here.
I will say I do like to make a distinction between a family and a team. And I think with a business, it definitely is a team.
Yeah.
A family, you don't choose your family.
Yeah.
You love them. Sometimes you got to put up with them, right? You're also not necessarily trying to achieve something together, and you don't necessarily have shared goals.
Yeah.
Later, chef. So I like to think of it more as a team.
Sure.
And with a team also comes accountability, right? Like, everyone has a role. Everyone has a part to play.
Yeah.
We try to hold each other accountable, and we're striving towards the same goals.
Yeah.
So that's the sports background I have, is team sports mainly.
Yeah.
And
everybody has a role to play. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And I like to think that we're building strong teams.
Awesome.
And it's not to degrade family at all.
No.
It's a different thing.
Yeah,
so that's the way that I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just that kind of more, what I was getting at is more the family feel. Just the comfort of walking into your own place and and just knowing people.
Yeah. The camaraderie. Yeah. That's real.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll finish off with just you have a wide variety of different type of like food variations to kind of suit most people's needs. Just elaborate a little bit more on the food variety that you have, for people's dietary preferences and lifestyles.
Yeah. No. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing is that we say that we serve real food everyone can enjoy, and that includes folks that just want to have a good meal that makes them feel good, and whatever that means to them.
Yeah.
So we try to have something that, at least a couple items on our menu, that will catch someone's eye and say, oh, like, that sounds good to me, or that's appealing, or I'll give that a shot. By default, all our meals are based around veggies, healthy fats, good quality source, mindfully sourced proteins. And so that's kind of the baseline. And then by default, we don't include things like refined sugars, peanuts, soy, seed oils, things that folks are trying to avoid for different dietary reasons. And we just try to say, look, like, we don't believe you need that stuff to have good food that tastes good. So let's just not include it by default. It doesn't necessarily mean that any of that stuff is inherently evil.
Of course.
But we don't include it. I don't know if I mentioned gluten on that list. We're 100% gluten free. So, it's for people who have celiac. It's for people who have a soy allergy that they're like, I fear for everything I order when I go out to eat because I just am not sure. So if it's just not on our menu, it's not in our ingredient list, they can feel safe. So that's a big reason why we do that. And then as far as specific diets, most of our meals are plant-based by default. So vegans, vegetarians can come in, plenty of options for them. If you are on a keto or paleo or low carb type diet, we have several options that you can order by default, but then you can also make lower carb substitutions like cauliflower rice for rice, or, our farmer's greens mix instead of having a starchier grain. And we think that's great. We think there's very few places where, there's kind of not really the opportunity for that veto vote of someone saying, oh, well, I have to have something that's vegetarian, that tastes good, that I'm going to like, or no, I'm celiac. Like, I really want to go to a place that's safe, or, hey, I really love meat, but I care about where it's sourced.
Yeah.
We fit all of those buckets.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've always tried to do. And I feel like we've accomplished that. I feel like folks can come and every dietary persuasion, whether they have no dietary preference as well, can come and enjoy something here.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's very important. A lot of people have, like, especially in this city here, you have a lot of people with different dietary preferences and lifestyles, so you're really like on the money with that aspect of it, because people will come in here who are just, Mediterranean diet, and you've got people who are vegan, and if they can just come in here and chat with one another and not have to worry about what's in their food, and, happy days, right? And it's definitely a big thing. So well on the money there, bro. Fair play to you.
Cool.
Yeah. So to kind of end this, is something that I want to do is, if you had something I'd like to inspire, that's the whole point in this as well. You know what I mean? I want your story leading up to where you are today. Super inspiring story. When I had the conversation with you over the phone, it was great. I loved it. it's really something that I want to share with a lot of people. But if you had something that you wanted to share with our community that would inspire them throughout your story, it doesn't have to be restaurant. It doesn't, just like you can take your time with this as well. What's something inspiring that you would love to share with them?
Yeah.
From the story that you told, and you can take your time with it as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of people focus on what am I passionate about? And I know you mentioned that clearly I have a lot of passion, and someone might see that and say, he's just doing what he's passionate about. What I prefer is the better approach that I would advise anyone to think about is don't chase passion, chase meaning, because every day is not going to be enjoyable, and every task is not going to be enjoyable. There's going to be things, if you're working towards something that leads to fulfillment, there's going to be things you have to do that you do not want to do. Coming from someone who runs a restaurant, there's a lot of things that you don't want to do that you have to do because there's a greater cause, there's a greater purpose, and there's meaning behind it, and there's fulfillment in that journey to try to achieve that meaning. So the inspirational wrapping on that is, don't focus on just passion alone. Passion will come as the result of taking steps daily to achieve meaning and fulfillment in your life.
That's amazing. Bro, I love that. That's great. No, 100%, man. Fair play to you. Bryan, thank you so much for today. Honestly, what a journey it's been for you, from where you came to where you are now. I'm sure you've got lots to look forward to in the future. But overall, today has been absolutely exceptional. Your story's been it's definitely inspired me. Even when I was talking on the phone, I was really looking forward to coming down here and sharing this story. And I'm looking forward to sharing this with the community as well. But overall, thank you so much, man.
You got it. You got it. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story and highlighting Kitava. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, always, man. Thank
right.
you. Boom.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.